Hello guys and welcome to chapter 7. In chapter 7 we're gonna see one of the most popular systems starting with a6. Against these systems I recommend to take and here to play knight f3. I also try to explore a little bit queen b3 to see what is also happening, putting some pressure on d5, trying to disrupt the black coordination, but it seems that after c5 black solves all his problem very quickly, simply neutralizing all the white pressure. After knight d5, knight c6, I analyzed this relatively new idea, bishop g5. So obviously he can take due to knight c7, and this line can be really dangerous. Maybe at least to try one time, because because black needs to be very careful. For example, after f6, bishop e3, bishop d2, this following line, after knight e3, white is slightly better. There is few games in database, but bishop c5 should be here played. That's the improvement over the game we're gonna see. Rook c1, at the end, it's very unclear position, but I think the black is slightly more. For now, it seems very hard for black to go to castle and everything. This bishop on b3 is very dangerous, but slightly more pleasant position to white. For example, this international master playing against Romanov queen d4, and after this, unfortunately, I think Romanov won this game and everything played well, but unfortunately for him, he missed this very beautiful long castle after he has a dominant position. So if not f6 is the move, so what's the move? It's a knight g7. At the first it seems like, hey, knight b6, we win the game. But actually, black has this crazily good move, a fine sacrifice of pawn, c4. After c4, I don't know what is happening here. I want to show you some, since it's new idea, I want to show you some interesting lines, after e4. I think knight d4 is enough for equality, without any risk, but also he needs to know here at the end for queen c7, and this was all played in the game between Fier and Basso, and they played a draw here. I don't know if it was a really serious game or they already arranged draw before for the game, but definitely interesting way to see how to play this new line. Queen c7 is very beautiful move, since after knight d4, we have here almost, I think, 0.7 advantage or something like that. So much better position for us. But knight d4 is, knight d4 is enough for equality, but probably more simple move is queen d4. Because now we don't have good square for knight, we don't have any serious threat, and we simply need to go back knight d2, queen c3, and after all of this, computer say it's equal because it is, a4 is coming and we're gonna get rid of these pawns, but definitely feels pleasant position for black. So yeah, I examined a little bit this line, and maybe it's possible to try once as a surprise, but nothing more than that. So my suggestion here, start with knight f3, and black has few options here. He doesn't need only to play this move. For example, he can play h6, and after h6, I here try to find something very aggressively. Since bishop f4, bishop f4 is positional system, and it's pleasant. It's very pleasant. Bishop e5, I like this move here. The idea behind bishop e5 and other things is slowly postpone the black development, since knight bd7 is not possible, and if he takes on e5, knight e5 followed by f4 is definitely good for us. Or sometimes we can simply take d takes e4, since there's no good square for the knight, and d takes e4, e4 coming, and we have much better position. So after castle, rook e8, h3 here is my recommendation. For example, also two young grandmasters, they both went for bishop f6, e4, and in this position, both of their opponents failed to find energetic b5 to maintain equality. It's not easy move, and it's still unclear. We have isolated pawn, we're gonna attack and everything, but it's interesting how they react. So for example, GM Gauyash from Hungary. He played rook e7, which seems completely fine move, you know, just defending on b7, and he wants to develop the bishop. But after rook e1 and bishop c4, at this moment, we are slightly better. We have slightly better position, but unfortunately for Gauyash, he played here b5, and after queen c3, Petrov claimed dominant position. Knight e5 is coming, c6 will be weakness. He a little bit stuck in development and everything, so that's with queen b3. So b5 is the right move. So bishop f6 is definitely interesting move. Also, I think engine suggestion is to take here, play, you know, a3 queens, normal queens gambit line, you know, either depends, of course, everything how's gonna black play, but usually, you know, we want to play b4, this queen side majority to push and everything, but it's a slow way to build up position. Probably much better decision for somebody who is strategically oriented, but we want to play here aggressively. So I try to find something interesting, and I think h3 h3 here is definitely interesting move for white. So the problem for black after h3 is that he can develop this knight. That's constantly the problem for him. So he finally takes here and plays c5. If you don't do that, we have much better position. So here white has few options. Definitely has few options, queen f3 and many other moves, but I think rook c1 is the best one, just because it asks, you know, demand from black more precision. So for example, here one international master push c4, you know, it looks like, you know, to push all these pawns to have some queen side majority, but actually that's only a mistake for us, because with this setup, with knight on e5 and bishop e1, we're gonna definitely attack. And Cheng here play f4, which is okay, we go for that, but we that's the idea we want to follow, but there's no reason to allow b4. So in my opinion, I would just prevent that with a3, and now we go f4, queen f3, g4, white has dominant position. So c4 is definitely not a good move. He needs to play engine queen d6, and after queen f3, you know, I want to play queen g3. Very active move. And after queen g3, this was the game in Spain a few years ago between one man grandmaster and one woman grandmaster. And after c takes here, she played knight b7. After William used his chance and play f4, but unfortunately for him, he didn't manage to punish this knight e4. So here's the improvement over there again. So after knight e4, we have beautiful bishop e4 and amazing d5. He can take, he'll be pinned, and after this, just pass pawn will be crucial. We're gonna block e4 pawn, you know, we're gonna play rook d1, support this d6 pawn, we're gonna moment move the queen, we'll maybe even push g4, so we have dominant position, you know. The knights are controlling the whole board, and d6 is huge threat for black. So instead of that, like, it's interesting to, according to engine, knight c6 is here the move, not easy one to find, because he needs to go willingly for this endgame, which computer finds like almost equal. But I think generally, looking practically speaking, I mean, position looks very bad for black. I mean, these two weaknesses, it seems that only black is fighting for the draw. But you know, engine is engine, and such a position he can hold without any problems. Okay, that's it with this h3. But what I want to say here, that I would also suggest you, since as I said, I try to find something aggressively, and bishop f4 is more leaning to positionally. I would suggest knight e5 move and d4. You know, and in this position, I must say that black must be very well prepared to survive this position. So let's see. After these few force move, I think almost everyone played here moves like knight c3 and c6. But actually, what is interesting to see, that only move maybe to maintain equality, to be closer on the equal, is knight c6, and that's novelty. You know, but even after this move, I think that white gets a risk-free position, you know. He has double pawns on queen side. It's gonna be weak, but according to Engine, he remains very solid and close to equality. C6 was played in Ruyazaev Rahmanov, also big mistake, you're gonna see that by yourself. And after knight c3, almost everybody played this. Now we're gonna see our idea. So here we have like hanging pawns and knight e3 followed by knight e5, queen g4, you know. We definitely gonna some attack. Just like with pass pawn, we also want to attack with hanging pawns, and this position definitely allow us that. So in this position was played few months ago between one GM and one FIDE master, and Alisev here played queen c6, which computer found a mistake. And after knight d7, rook b1, queen b3, you know, it seems a much better position for white. We have some pressure on b7, f7 pawn is hanging, c4, d5 is in the air, so, you know, I don't like this position for black. So queen e4, he needs to find engine queen e4. And in this moment, I spent a lot of time analyzing two moves, I remember, and I lean a little bit more to queen h5. But I also must say that bishop a3 is also second best engine move, and it seems fine. But I want something aggressive, you know, instead of trading some pieces, which of course, you know, I want to prevent some development from black, from castling everything. I actually want to get him to castle and to attack him, you know. So according to engine, we have slightly better position, you know, but it still seems very, how to say, unpleasant for black. Very unpleasant position, and he needs to find a lot of good moves to survive this position. So generally, you know, what I love about this knight e5 line, what I love about this knight e5 is how aggressive and dangerous it looks, and it's not easy for black to find all these engine moves, you know, and especially since it's rare line and you can find only a few games in database. So I hope you're gonna definitely try this game, this move in few games after this course get out. So that's with h6. Also black here try few times c6. Definitely solid move, you know, preparing bishop d6 and everything. And I must say, once again, we can play bishop f4 and many other moves which are solid, but a little bit more leaning to positional side. I want something aggressive. The whole course based on something aggressive. So once again, e4, bishop c4. In this position, I think the most of the players in database played knight h6. It is probably the best move, but I don't like it since, you know, having the knight on the edge of the board definitely seems very unpleasant for black. And not only that, black needs to be well prepared, you know, to survive such a position, which I think in logically looking, it doesn't make any sense, because you don't want to go that deep just to survive some position. You definitely search for someone otherwise, which is, I think, very good for us, because then we can be better prepared and explore that. So let's see, knight h6. I analyzed few moves here, you can see, but I think knight c4 is a little bit more precise than knight g4. And why I like this line is that everybody almost here immediately play castle. It looks very logical move. Bring the king to the safety. But here already problem starts for black. Since in one internet game, Grandmaster Ratkovich played knight d7, and after queen d3 the game is lost. So he needs to play bishop f5, and here my suggestion is to play h3, you know, restricting a little bit knight. There is no knight g4 in the future, and simply we want to push g4. So after bishop g6, you know, I don't want to allow the knight to bring into the game, so I'm just gonna play g4 and maybe support it with f4. So definitely pleasant position, since he can play f6. Even if he moved the king f6, still wouldn't be possible due to knight e6. So that's how we maintain the equality here. So the castle is mistake, and he needs to play knight d7. So before castle, black must take care of the d5 square. So after knight d7, my proposition is to go castle, bishop e3. And once again, if he play castle here, it can cost him. It can cost him after queen c2. So you see the idea. So you see the idea, knight f6, queen h7 mate. He must play this move. And after this almost forced line, he take the control of d5, you know, but we also have the active position of bishop here. Rook e1 is coming, bishop g5, and you know how to play with isolated pawn. We usually attack. So bishop g5, rook e1, bishop c2, trying to exploit some weaknesses, you know, just trying to be active. According to engine, we have slightly better position, and definitely it looks like one. So knight d5 maybe is a little bit more precise move. Queen d3, once again aiming for it. So if you here, for example, play castle, knight h7, we have dominant position. Since he can take knight f6 double check, and it's after queen h7 it's mate. So he needs to play knight f5, and after this position, you know, according to agent, black position is okay, but I definitely like our long-term chances. As I already mentioned in the line above, you know, we have isolated pawn, we're gonna attack. In this situation, we don't have the bishop here, but we're gonna play rook d1, knight f3, go back knight e5, bishop c2 is always in the air, so, you know, we have at least slightly more active position, at least. What is interesting about this line, why I choose it, is definitely what happens after bishop g5. This is definitely continuation we want. The rising positions are very aggressive and unclear. So let's see. After queen h5, bishop e7 is the move. It looks at the first as a huge mistake, but actually that's the best move. g6 looks most logical move, but it is mistake. In this position, we claim big advantage. According to engine, we have dominant position. You know, we're gonna take this pawn back, bishop here. Black is undeveloped. So many things we have here, and it's very simple to play. You will see that by yourself. What is interesting is this position. At this position, I know I spent hours analyzing this position because I wasn't sure which line to play, because there's so many good lines. First one I want to check you is not my main line, but I want to show you how it's unpleasant. So after check, king b6, according to engine here, d5 is the most precise move, but I think after d5 it's not that hard to defend for black. You'll see analysis later. Black definitely survive here without any problem, but of course we can always here repeat the moves. So as you can see, we don't risk anything. But as I said, according to engine, d5 is more precise move, but I wouldn't choose that. Since it's much easier to defend for black, I would choose bishop c8 and now d5. So look, position is very aggressive, and black must play some serious defensive moves, otherwise he will easily lose, as happens to my friend Injic in Dubai a few years ago. So d5, we are following currently game between Pretke and Injic. And Injic played here c5. As you can see, it seems very logical move, you know, c5. Bishop e3 doesn't feel anymore as threat and nothing. King a7 is coming, you know. I believe he already spent a lot of time here, you know. And after a4, according to engine, we have a winning position. Injic played e3 here, but I try to see what is happening after queen g4 to see, is there any forced line we win? Like, what's the threat? A threat is b4, you know. And after all these moves, we have winning position. So Injic tried to find some counterplay after e3, but Pretke played amazing moves. He simply ignored that and he castled, putting the queen on the safety. And here we already have winning position, but I just want to show you the game, how it's finished, you know, in very, very painful way for my friend. At the end, he resigned here because mate is very close, very close. So then, if the c5, this logical move, is mistake, what's the only move? Only move here is to play instantly king a7. It's same idea, but a different move order. Now after check, now c5 works, and after knight d7, it seems that he holds everything. I try to analyze a little bit here with computer to see what is happening, but after these few moves, you know, it's still unclear position. You know, black is fine, but still very unclear position, and it's definitely unpleasant to play with king on a7. If you just flip board here, and to see this position from this perspective, you know, and definitely if you are not prepared here, I think everybody would lose this position very easily. So my point is, no one would get deep into this position because you don't want to analyze this deep and play this this dangerous position just for draw. So I guess also my friend wasn't very well prepared in this line. Bishop f4 is interesting move, but we don't, after queen f8, we don't have nothing then repeating the moves, as you're gonna see in my database here. So instead of that, and bishop e6, I choose knight e4. So definitely one of the most interesting continuations in these positions, you know. The rising positions we're gonna see here are very unclear and offer chances for both sides. So immediately to see what's the threat is, like, for example, if black play b5 after bishop f4, we threat knight b6 and bishop e6 mate. So black needs to find now the sequence of the 5, 6, 7 force move to survive. b3, queen g7, and this position, b5, this position we are following some games here. I suggest to play bishop f1 for win. Bishop f4 was played in Anton Guyaro game against Vallejo, and they repeat the moves here. So we always have the draw in pocket. We literally don't risk anything, but I would suggest bishop f1 playing here for win. So after this move, also played by Basso, queen e6 the only move covering that, and now h4. So queen g8 is played in that game by, I think he was international master, something like that, and that's a good idea. But unfortunately, it's a wrong move order, and we will see why. So we definitely take, and since he didn't play king c7, we use this move order and this fact to play g4. You know, bishop h3 trading, and now g4 is according to engine is equal position. But honestly, I like our chances. You know. We're gonna continue with king f1, rook e1. We're gonna take this pawn, and 3 versus 1 on king's side. It's not easy for black to hold that, you know. He needs to find some. He needs to find some counterplay. He needs to find some counterplay queen side, which is very hard to find over the board. So, for example, this guy played against Basso, bishop f6, and you see, this move shows how it's easy to play a mistake here. So for example, here we can immediately punish this move with one castle, and if he takes, we ignore it. Rook e1, rook e4, 3 versus 1 on king side. If we play rook a7, we have dominant position. We're gonna once again use this majority, and black will need a lot of time to bring these knights into the game. Basso didn't use this mistake, but I think eventually he won the game. So then why computer think this position is equal? Well, he finds a good counterplay with a5 and knight e6, bishop e4. This is the only moves to maintain equality, but even when that happens in the end, you know, I still wouldn't play this position as black. There's no chance. I know that knight e4, a4 is coming, but also g5, h5 is fast, so definitely I would play this position from white perspective. But that's bishop h3. I think g4 maybe immediately offers slight more chances. I mean, we're gonna again trade the bishops. That's not the point, but slightly more precise move order for white. So for example here, if he takes on h3, seems logical. After king f1, according to computer, we have dominant position. You see how it's easy to make mistakes by black, and that's what I love about this position. You know, it's so aggressive, so unpleasant that you need to play engine moves to survive. Rook e1 is coming, you know, h5. In some sequence line, we can just march with the king to g4. So the only move here is knight d7 to avoid that. And after king f1, I think very soon will transpose to interesting endgame, you know. I'm not sure is black able to hold this kingside majority, but I believe we have slightly better chances. Once again, he needs to find some counterplay on queenside very fast, otherwise I think he's gonna lose without fight. So then what's the right idea? What's the right idea if not queen g8? It's king c7, preventing this g4 idea. So after this, he continues with his main idea. But the difference here is we can push g4. We must read the bishops and now g4. So once again, as I said, position is around equal according to engine. He needs to find some counterplay on queen side. And if it finds, I think he should be fine. But he needs to play a5, knight e6, bishop b4. Otherwise, as we saw in the game Basso Cambrat, position can quickly turn in white favors. So king f1, rook e1 is coming. Simply, it's not simple. So I think here he played bishop f6, long castle. We claim big advantage. He needs to play a5, knight e6, which I found very hard to find over the board. So that's with c6. So knight f6 is probably the most serious move, and here I propose bishop g5. Of course, as I mentioned almost in every chapter, we can always play like this, you know, white slightly better, normal queen's gambit position, but that's not our idea. We are searching for something aggressive. So after bishop takes queen b3, I must say, like, this line was very popular a few years ago, and there's crazy amount of GMs who play b5 here instantly, you know. But unfortunately for black, this line losing by force. So let's see, after knight d5, e4, queen e3, very beautiful move, rook c1, bishop d3. This is forced line, and it's crazy to say, but we have winning position. I provide, I think here, analysis of 7-8 moves, and you can see all of them very easily. I just want to show you the main response. The every other response you can see database and how to punish and win very quickly. This seems as most logical move with queen b3 followed by queen d3, and seems at the moment that he holds everything, you know, but we have here stunning resource, rook c8, you know. If he takes, we win the queen, so he must play bishop d8, and after this, you know, we win the piece back, we are pawn up, and we have strong d pass pawn. So I think the rest is just a matter of the technique. Bishop e7 played in one game, rook ef, bishop f8, and this, we're following the game between Akbash and Paher, Milan, played a few years ago, and as you're gonna see in every other line I analyze here, d5 is always crucial idea for us. I can't remember did he play this move, but d5 is winning move, since here we are entering into winning endgame. So we are getting the knight on c4, just matter over e5 or d2. Every other line, 7 or 8 lines you have here, and every other line we win by force. So besides b5, I want also to mention b6 is also played a lot of time. And after g3, the most common move, I think most played move here is queen d8, which I think it's not the best line. Bishop d6 should be played, you know. It's gonna be the same idea, but a little bit more precise move order. My friend here played rook ed1, which is fine, but I suggest here idea with rook fd1. I'm gonna show you the difference, because in this moment, here, I'm just gonna show you the difference between rook ad1, rook fd1. So in this forced line, according to engine, in the end, he has amazing resource, bishop h3, and my knight is hanging on e5. So instead of that, I suggest queen c2 to be played. And after knight e7, rook fd1. So what's the difference? If you follow the same line, we have slightly better position here. So as you can see on bishop f5, we're gonna play knight h4, we have some queen a4, d5 in the air, we have slightly more active pieces. And if he follows the same line, which is not the best one for him, what is then difference? At the end, after d5, there is no bishop h3. Okay, some finesses, but if you learn this, you should be fine. Okay, let's see the most played move here, queen d8. What's the problem with queen d8? We can exploit it with two different ideas. One is h4, following by knight h5. And another one, I think maybe a little bit more precise, is knight e5. So e4 is threat, but also queen a4 is threat. So if you play bishop d6, we have check. b5 is not possible, I think due to simply taking knight b5. And here we are following the game between Sarkar and my another friend from Serbia, Grandmaster Nestorovich Nikola. Sarkar missed here to play knight c6. But I must admit it's hard to find all these lines over the board, because at the end of this line, white needs to find e4. That's the point of all variation. It's not simple, but if you find this, we have dominant position. What's the point? If he takes on d4, we takes on d5, rook c1 is coming, all white squares are for us 2 versus 1 on queen side. We have winning position. He should take on e4, and after one castle, we are close to dominant position. d5 is coming, and I think the endgame will be terrible for black due to his weak structures. I think we have like pleasant here 0.55 advantage. h4 is also, as I mentioned, great alternative, since at the end, there's no any compensation for the pawn, but it all depends for you guys. What do you want more? Which positions you like more? So queen d8 is not good to knight e5. As we said, bishop d6 is a little bit more precise moves order. We're gonna play after all of that queen c2. So if you remember that, will be fine. So we're getting back to the main line, and I think the most serious move is rook a7, simply holding on b7 and don't damaging structure. So here I want to follow simple idea. We're gonna place queen c2 e4, but we need to be careful about move order. We don't want to play immediately queen c2, since after bishop b4, he just pin us and he take the knight. When he takes knight, goodbye e4. Knight e5, I also spent few hours to analyze knight e5. You can find this in base section, what is happening here. My opinion about this line is that it's unpleasant for both sides, and if you feel that your opponent is not well prepared, if he spent a lot of time in the opening and if he spent a lot of time on rook a7, I think maybe you can at least one game try knight e5. It's very hard to find all of these moves over the board, and even if he finds all the best moves, I'm just gonna show you the last position here. Even if he finds all the best moves, position remain tense, and both outcomes are possible. I believe even if he finds all these moves, he's gonna spend a lot of time, and he's gonna lack some time in the end game. It's gonna be in time problem. So you can definitely try this line, but it's not for more than one game. So a3, queen d8, h4. It's obvious idea. h6, queen c2. So here we are following the idea we want, Here black can play knight d7 and bishop d6, but idea stays the same for us, We play e4 and, preparing long castle and plan to attack with g4 in one moment. So position can arise something like this, It's a little bit uncomfortable for black, We want to push g4, g5, and I'm not sure, of what's the chances of black finding some counterplay. I think queen b6, queen b6, queen b3 here is the only counterplay by black, but it's not simple to find all of these moves over the board, of course. Knight e7 is the best move, e4. And I also want to mention here c6, played in one game by 2200 player, and my friend here played very good move, e5. Just secure dominant pawn structure, I'm not here worried about any potential c5 counterplay from black, because we always have some, after bishop d3, some bishop f5 or knight e2, knight f4, g4, and we have some much more dangerous threats, The pressure on black king side becomes very unpleasant, and black pieces will definitely struggle to find some activity, as we will steadily build up our overwhelming attack. Here's the example, bishop to knight e2, and we have simply dominant position. So c6 is big strategy mistake. He should take. Bishop e7, c6 is also possible, but as I mentioned, always the same idea. We go to long castle, g4, g5, and position looks definitely promising, especially since he has this h6, you know, and g5 will be much easier to play. Bishop e7, long castle. That's our main position here. c6. I think, you know, we can play two good moves here. Bishop c4, which is my suggestion, but also knight e5 is also fine, you know, just g4, constantly finding to play something aggressive. And the end of this line, computer claim that position is equal, but I must say, you know, it's not easy position for black. He's under some significant pressure and requires some precision defense. Rook g6 is there, bishop c4, bishop d3 sacrifice, you know, it looks very, very dangerous for black. But if he find all the precise moves, he'll be fine. After bishop c4, castle knight d3, I'm following one game between two international masters, and I must say that black played here the most logical move, knight f6. But unfortunately for black, knight f6 is a mistake, because after we take g4. And maybe black thought that just like in Queen's Gambit, you know, after g5 takes bishop g7, he's gonna be defined, but we're not gonna push g5 here. We play knight e5. So knight e5 is a very active move. We want to support with f4, but also, you know, you never know when knight g6 can happen. So after queen d5, f4, g5, h5 is coming, and we definitely claim the advantage. And that's the whole point of variation, you know. Black needs to find a lot of good moves to maintain equality. So knight f6 is a mistake. He needs to find king b5, you know, but this is already move 17. If he can find all of these moves over the board, or his preparation is that well, then fine. But I think even after king b1, you know, we have promising positioning here. Full of attacking ideas, you know. For now, according to engine, black remains solid. But, you know, although our plan, you know, such a pushing pawns and activating the pieces, you know, creating some potential threats and everything, black defense still holds. And we definitely need to carefully coordinate, you know, our pieces, you know, how to attack precisely, but also black needs to find some accurate counterplay in order to maintain his solidity. So I think position is unclear. Everything's possible here. But when I look here from white perspective and looking from black perspective, I think I would definitely choose white, you know. Simply, it's much easier to play for us. We don't risk almost nothing. So that's it, guys, about this line. I hope you're gonna enjoy these aggressive setups, especially, once again, as I said, after c6, e4 lines, they spent a lot of amount of time analyzing of this, and I hope you're gonna enjoy these attacking setups and aggressive play. And even in this main line, you know, just try to be solid here. After knight e4, just remember we play long castle, trade the bishops, push g4, g5, and black is one who needs to be more precise than us. And if he achieve that, well, as is in any other position, you know, it's gonna be equal or draw. But our point is to play some moves, to play some lines where we definitely give some problems, you know, or headache to black. So that's it with this chapter 7, guys. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in chapter 8.